Hi, welcome to Secure It with Dr. KJ. Welcome to Season 4. I am so excited to kick off this new season with an incredible cybersecurity leader who has spent 28 years in IT, working her way from the help desk to the C-suite. Nett Lynch is the Chief Information Security Officer at Kraft Kennedy and the Emperor of Legion, a division she launched to deliver left-of-boom services through MSP partnerships. With nearly 2 decades of experience in the managed service provider space, serving as both a virtual CIO and virtual CISO, Nett has built a reputation for translating complex security and compliance frameworks into clear, business-aligned strategies that executives can actually act on. Her expertise spans NIST, CIS, SOC 2, HIPAA, CGIS, PCI, CMMC, and beyond, always anchored in a pragmatic, business-first philosophy. She and her team at Legion are trusted advisors, helping organizations make informed, secure decisions in an ever-evolving threat landscape. Nett, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, KJ.
I really appreciate it. Let's jump right into question 1. So you've built your practice around left of boom thinking. So in a regulated industries where compliance often drives conversation, how do you help organizations understand that compliance is not the same as being secure?
100%. So when I have clients that I'm advising, most of the time, the reason they hire a security advisor is because they are in a regulated industry or there's some sort of compliance that they need to pay attention to. It's great to get them started. However, like you said, compliance is not security. They are not the same thing. It's kind of like a Venn diagram. There's a little bit of overlap, but there's stuff on either side that one does not equal the other. So having these conversations, I always start with understanding that client's particular business and not business in general. Business in general is important to know to have these conversations, but then you need to break it down for that individual client to understand how that business functions, where the friction is, what their hopes and dreams are, what their fears are, right? Where's the politics? Right? What are their growth plans? Yeah. And to get clients thinking about that, I use the term treasure a lot. So all of their data is treasure. It's all valuable, but not all treasure are the crown jewels. So helping them to think about it using that analogy, like where are your crown jewels versus where you keep your treasure, and start thinking about it from that perspective, because I can ask the question, what happens if your crown jewels get exfiltrated, is a lot different than, what if some secondary data somewhere, their treasure, gets exfiltrated. It's a different response. It's a different risk. So putting it into a context that they can understand helps them think about value. And that's where the risk conversation comes in. I generally don't lead with security and compliance. I lead with risk, because that's what the clients really care about. They want to minimize their risk and align to whatever their business goals are. So along that line, one of the things I usually do is I have the client create their SMART goals. And a lot of clients, a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, they know what they kind of want to do, but they haven't put it in the context of SMART goals. And when you do that, it makes them refine and refine and refine until it makes sense and it's achievable. And then once we have those SMART goals and those timeframes, then you can create a security roadmap to help that client achieve those goals. So now you're business enablers. You're not just a cost center. I'm going to help you achieve these goals, and this is how.
No, I love that. I really love that. SMART goals. And so when you think about those SMART goals and then you're helping them mature, what does that culture look like in that company afterwards?
100%. And I think that's where you go from being an advisor, and I hate this term, but it fits, to being that trusted partner, right? And you go from just being a vendor, a provider of a service, to somebody they let into the business because you understand it, you care about it, you spent the time to understand the idiosyncrasies of this particular company, and therefore you're able to understand and address those. And I think there's an important thing here is that a lot of those conversations are not going to be about technology. A lot of those conversations are going to be about business process. It's going to be about their HR headaches. It's going to be about the politics in the office. And the more that you as an advisor can understand that, the better your recommendations are going to land, because you're taking all of that into account and you're positioning it in a way that is taking all of this that every client wants to feel unique, right? And by doing this, you give them that unique feeling. Like, I understand your business almost as well as you do as the business owner. And therefore, these recommendations are aligning to all of these things. And one of the big mistakes I think a lot of security advisors make is they lead with fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah.
Is it effective? It can be. They could sign something because you scared them. But guess what? They walk away from that conversation not feeling so good. It makes them uncomfortable. And they're less eager to have the next conversation because they walk away not feeling good about it. And sometimes they feel like, you scared me into this, right? And they may not verbalize it. Nobody likes that feeling, right? Think about it. Like, anytime any of us have been sold something based on fear, uncertainty, and doubt, we walk away from it without the greatest feeling. Same thing applies here. It has to come from that place of partnership and truly wanting to understand how that business works, and then having risk conversation instead of FUD conversation.
No, I like that. And so I got a fun question for you here as a follow-up. So when you think about the CISO, the CIO, those are the folks that are normally in the room when you're having these risk conversations, compliance conversations, and so forth. How important is the CFO in those conversations as well? Because that's the money person. So how important is that that you've seen in your career?
So I would actually attack it a little bit differently. The CIO and CTO, you can have similar conversations with, so they could be the same people in the room. The CFO, I would have a completely different conversation with, because they want to know ROI. They want to know growth, expansion. How is this going to support sales versus, is this just something we have to pay for because compliance is going to make us? That could be an answer too. That's a different conversation. The CIO and the CTO, reality, they don't care as long as they have the funding to be able to do what they need to do. So I would have those two conversations separately, but I would have both of those conversations.
No, I love it. I love it. You must have those conversations. I was actually sitting next to a healthcare CFO yesterday on a plane, and we were having a very deep conversation about his cybersecurity insurance. And so I was like, oh, I don't know all the particulars to your business. I can't give you everything yet, but I can help you think about some things that will put you in the room and help you ask intelligent questions. And so we had a nice little dialogue, and it was great. And so I love that. That's why the CFO is important always when it comes to money. So
before we move on, when I do tabletops, I really want the CFO in the room. I want the CIO, the CEO, the CTO, the CMO, if they have one who's ever in charge of marketing, and the CFO, because when I do tabletops, they're business oriented, right? I don't even care if the IT staff come or not, because if they come, they're observing. I have their roles scripted out already, so they're not even participating. But the CFO will definitely have participation in a tabletop, because usually, almost every time, there's some sort of financial impact. Either we have to pay experts to come in, or, we have to decide whether we're paying ransomware, which hopefully should already be decided before the incident. But there's all these things that are financially driven. It's not just we'll do this thing or not. It's can we afford to do this thing or not? Or how will we fund it? Where will we move the money from? And that's an important conversation to have before you're in a live incident.
Oh yeah, don't want to be in a live incident. Caught with your pants down there. So no. So when we think about threat actors, right, and weaponizing AI, so deep fakes, you think about spear phishing, you think about sophisticated ransomware. How are these AI powered threats changing the way you advise clients?
Yeah, this is a conversation that I have a lot. Like, AI is everywhere. AI, every client is using some system that has AI in it. And so are the threat actors, right? As we're developing this technology, the other side is also developing this technology. And it's been an interesting shift in the threat landscape. It's gone over the last couple of years from being technical sophistication to being more focused on credibility and speed. Mm-hmm. So this is what we're seeing. They're using AI-generated phishing and social engineering, right? We know this. This has been happening for a while. They're doing reconnaissance faster. They're building the weaponization faster. And the attacks look indistinguishable from real business activity. So the ways we used to be able to identify attacks aren't working anymore. They've overcome that. They've overcome us being able to spot them, humans being able to spot them in the way we used to. And identity has now become the primary attack surface. It's less about getting in through the firewall and more about social engineering somebody, using these very sophisticated AI-backed attacks so that people are more likely to fall for them. And let me tell you, if there's an organization that is being targeted specifically, or even bands within the organization, so like the financial portion, the accounting portion of multiple different organizations, right, they do a lot of recon. They look at your social media. They look at whatever information is publicly available about those individuals. And now they can do it super quickly because they have AI. So where this all goes, right, you have to understand what the landscape is before you can give a recommendation. Right. So when I share this with clients, I always tell them, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this so you understand why we need to make some changes. Number one change, move toward passwordless. Number one on my list always, passwordless authentication everywhere. Make sure you have multi-factor, right? More than one factor all the time. Multi-factor is multiple factors. It's not password and. It doesn't have to be. Why use a password? Use, passwordless, use biometrics. There's so many different options that you don't have to use a password. And we really need to start implementing other technologies where passwords are no longer in the equation. They're still the most vulnerable part of any technical attack is passwords because they're out there. Humans are, we're lazy. We use the path of least resistance. We use the same passwords over and over. We iterate numbers and symbols after whatever words. So we're highly predictable. And even, so I do a number of password validation testing for clients in 365. I always create I use, the most commonly used passwords out in the world, but then I create a custom list for an organization. Most of the time, at least one of those passwords pops, and they're usually tied to the business. Come on, stop using your business name as your password. Don't use your company's phone number. Don't use your company's address. Please stop doing that.
No 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't work anymore.
It's sad, but I still see that out there too.
I know it's terrible. All we can do is help them. All we can do is help them. Right. That's all we can do and educate. So.
Or better yet, take that out of the equation. Passwordless, single sign-on, use passkeys.
What do you think about passkeys, right? So you have passkeys and you create an account on any website, and then you can sync that to the browser, and you can go any device and have that passkey pretty much, there for you. What are your thoughts? Because isn't the target a browser, right? The back end, the password bank in a browser?
100%. That is where a lot of users put all of their sensitive data. And a lot of users still use browsers to remember their passwords when they should be using a password manager. The key is that the password manager needs to have a shorter timeout, because you don't really need to have your password manager open and available the entire working day. You really just need it initially to start your day, and then periodically if you're signing into different accounts that don't have single sign-on. So you should absolutely be using passkeys, but the key is setting the configuration in your password manager that it times out faster.
No, I like it. I'm going to take that advice myself. I
I
can
see you
always
clicking
learn.
right now.
I'm not the end all be all, but I can always learn. So, no, I thank you for that. So you really have this gift for translating technical risk into business language. And so, what is the most effective approach you have found for earning trust and driving security investment at an executive level?
So this answer may surprise a lot of people. It's not your credentials. It's not your experience. It's how much you care. It's that that personal connection with the business owner, with your C-level, of paying attention to what's important to them. Right. And I think sometimes, especially coming from the technology side, we're so focused on the bits and bytes, right? And the execution and the technical side of it, the operational side of it, right, that we forget to think about what's in it for them. What's their motivation? What are the things that they care about the most? Listening. One of my colleagues likes to say regularly, you have one mouth and two ears. You should listen more than you speak. So, and I think that's a key component to building that rapport, is asking questions, open-ended questions specifically. Tell me what are your thoughts about? How are you handling, instead of yes or no questions, and then just stop and listen. They will tell you what's important to them. They will tell you the things that keep them up at night. They will tell you the areas that they wish they didn't have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. If you just stop and listen, give them the microphone and then just listen.
No, I agree. Listening is key. I always tell my team, like, you don't have to have the answer today, but it's how quickly can you get the answer to that individual? That's what's going to build the trust. You're going to build trust just based off of rapport, right? Yep. But if you can come back with an answer, if you didn't have that in the conversation, I think that's going to speak more volumes to what that relationship is going to be down in the future. So that's what I always run by. My dad always used to tell me, he said, the only thing you have is your word and your handshake. Those are the two things I live by. So my word has to be solid. My handshake is solid. So I like to make sure that people are heard, which is the crux of everything that we do. So, yeah.
And I'm a big believer in meeting people where they are. There's no part of security that a company doesn't need, right? Every part of security needs to be implemented in every organization. And it'd be great if we could go in and say, oh, great, we did an assessment. We found all these gaps. Let's do everything today. Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
Right.
First of all, nobody has the budget for that. Second of all, nobody has the tolerance for that. And third of all, that is a lot of change all at once. Exactly. So it's important to meet people where they are and set proper expectations. Once you do all that listening, then you start preparing strategically. How do you put everything in place? How do you work these things? And when you do that, they start to have fewer surprises, which C-levels hate surprises. Right? They want things that are predictable, things they could see coming, things that they could get ahead of and adjust for. And then when you build out a security roadmap, you're putting all of these theoretical, very, very high level conversations down into something that's more tangible for them. So I keep talking about a security roadmap. It has to be more than just what we're doing this month and next month. It has to be 3-5 years, because that's the level of goal setting that businesses need to do. So your security roadmap should line up with that. How are you going to support these goals, right? And you start with those SMART goals that the business has created so that you can incorporate them into your security roadmap, not the other way around. And then once you have all that together, then you're having the same conversation. We're going to do this to support this. Right. And then they can better understand the trade-offs that need to happen in order to make sure the how of the execution is aligned properly, so that they're making a decision, putting their budget and their into places where they have an ROI on it, because that's really what they care about. And then they have confidence that they're making the right decisions because you've guided them. And that's a key, because if you throw recommendations at clients without going through this process, it gets overwhelming. They get analysis paralysis. They have to learn too much in order to make a decision. And that's why it is a bigger process, but you're building a relationship. If you want to be transactional, then go ahead, hurdle all of your recommendations at them. If you want that partnership, it takes effort.
I agree with that 100%. And so Nett, this has been an amazing conversation. And for all the listeners, I know they would love your final thoughts on, the landscape of cybersecurity, AI, and, how to look forward. So the floor is yours.
I appreciate that. So looking forward, I kind of take a step back and say, sure, AI is new when it's here, but cloud was new at one point, right? The internet was new at one point. It's just another technology. Don't let it scare you. Understand it, figure out how to incorporate it, and then think about your risks that go with it, just like you did for all these other technologies as they've come out. And the key is just to get started. You're not going to start perfect. It's about iteration, but you can't iterate if you don't start. So make sure you're starting. A good place to start, if you're not doing them already, is tabletop exercises. There are lots of resources out there. I may or may not have authored a book on tabletop exercises for GTIA, which is 10 scripted different scenarios that are easy to customize. There are lots of resources out there that are free to use, and just get started. And the key is make it as custom as possible for the organization and keep it at the business level, and you'll start to see value coming out of that quickly.
Nett, amazing nuggets. Listeners, I hope you're paying attention. Nett is dropping gems out here today. And so, Nett, really appreciate you joining the show. This has been amazing, and I look forward to having you on again soon.
Thanks, KJ. This has been wonderful.
What a powerful conversation with Nett Lynch. From reframing compliance as a starting point rather than a finish line, to using the treasure and crown jewels analogy to help clients understand where their real risk lives, Nett brought a masterclass in translating technical security into business strategy. The emphasis on leading with risk instead of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, building SMART goals before building roadmaps, and earning trust through listening rather than credentials are lessons every security professional and business leader should take to heart. And that reminder that AI is just another technology to understand and incorporate, not something to fear, is exactly the mindset our industry needs right now. If you are not already running tabletop exercises, consider Nett's book through GTIA as a great place to start. Thank you for tuning in to Secured with Dr. KJ. Like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Securing tomorrow, one episode at a time.